podcast on a Wednesday evening. I'm Michael Bittner, joined tonight by Sean Austin, and together the two of us will be making up the Sean and Bittner podcast. Are you psyched? Are you ready to go? We've been talking about this for a while.
That's what you're looking for when you're playing defense.
The enthusiasm is budding. I love it. So, again, before we get things going, just wanted to thank our audience for tuning in here and spending a little bit of time, a little part of your day with us. We really appreciate it. Kind of getting the first episode going here. So, Sean and I been great friends for close to a decade now. And I think just about every conversation we have, there's been some kind of sports debate intertwined, and I don't think we've ever agreed on anything before. Would you agree with that? Well, yeah, perhaps. So we're taking it to the real time here. We're putting our thoughts out in the world for everyone else to kind of chew on and process, and it's going to be a good time. So thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it. So, Sean, of course, the first topic that I think we're probably going to get into here is the NFL Draft kicking off a week from tomorrow night. And I think probably the biggest discussion that is going on right now is among the quarterbacks in the draft, and more specifically talking about the first-round projected quarterbacks kicking things off. So, to start off the first episode of the Bit and Sean podcast, what are your thoughts on the first-round QBs?
My thoughts on all of them are just
Go ahead. Anything you want. Go ahead. Trevor Lawrence is a lock. No doubt about it.
Same as his so, I mean, Zach Wilson, I'm not completely sold on.
That's just a solid, methodical drive to start this game.
Culminated, doing exactly what they wanted to do, getting the ball downfield.
Now here comes my big one, Mac Jones.
When you run it in rather than throw it in, that hurts a defense psychologically.
You had an epiphany about this.
Yep, you're right. I've had a little bit of an epiphany on Jones, and I'll get to that in a little bit.
Are you sure?
Yeah, you want me to roll with it?
Go ahead. I want you.
So,
I'm waiting all day.
Okay.
You told me to trash last week.
Yeah, well, no. So, here's my thoughts on the quarterback class in general, okay? So, actually, no. I think that might be Zach Wilson. Okay? But here, let me go into the
Your Twitter followers, the screenshots it says "bust" written all over it.
Hey,
he is the Mitchell Trubisky of our draft.
I think Mac Jones can be similar in the sense that he doesn't have all that many starts, but he's shooting up the draft boards after the season ends. And I think he's similar to Mitch Trubisky in that sense. Now, I will get back to Mac Jones, but let me dive in on the quarterbacks as a whole of the first round. So I found these rankings earlier, and I found them interesting. There's nothing insinuating behind them, but I found them, and I thought they were interesting. So I pulled up the rankings of the quarterbacks projected to go in the first round, the top 5 quarterbacks: Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Mac Jones, Zach Wilson, and Trey Lance. And I found their high school rankings, and I think this is, at the very least, I think it's interesting. So, Trevor Lawrence is the #1 player in the nation in the class of 2018, according to 24/7 Sports rankings, which is typically where I go for my high school recruiting football, basketball rankings. So Trevor Lawrence was the #1 player in the country. Justin Fields, out of high school, was the #2 quarterback and player in the country. They were number 1 and 2 right then and there. Do you want to guess where Mac Jones's at least rank was in the nation?
Just making something out of nothing, so to speak.
Out of just quarterbacks or
Nope, everyone.
All right, and on running plays, runs after contact, we call that getting dirty yards.
Give you a couple guesses. 50? I'll give you one more guess. You're not relatively close. I know. It's a little surprising.
To throw again on second down.
What was it?
Get this one to Galladay.
No.
go from 1 extreme.
The 399th player in the nation, according to 24/7 Sports. He was the 29th ranked quarterback in that class in 2017. Zach Wilson, the 958th ranked player coming out of high school in the class of 2018. And then he was the number 70 ranked quarterback in that class. And then Trey Lance is just unbelievable to me, his ranking. It's 2005th. He was the 2005th ranked player according to 24/7 high school recruiting rankings. And he was the number 127 ranked quarterback in the class of 2018. So just knowing that and kind of seeing where these guys came from and kind of where they're at now, all projected to maybe even go in the top 10, it's just kind of interesting to me. And it's kind of tells the journey, you know. Some of them were the prodigies that we've been, you know, expecting all along. And then on the other hand, we've kind of had the guys that have built up their reputation, like Zach Wilson and Trey Lance. And then you've got Mac Jones, who obviously played for the best program in college football right now. So I just think it's interesting of where these guys come from to where they belong now. Now, how I would rank these guys if I was an NFL GM. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence is the bona fide #1 quarterback in this class. Justin Fields, I would put #2.
Okay.
Pushback? Pushback yet?
Yep.
Okay. Are you going to let me finish?
I'm gonna let you
Okay. Trey Lance is #3 to me. As far as talents. Okay? Trey Lance is #3. Mac Jones is #4. And I've got Zach Wilson ranked last as far as where I would rank them if I'm an NFL GM.
Top 5.
Yeah, out of the top 5 quarterbacks that we're talking about. Yep.
I mean, all right.
Here are the Vikings now to start.
Any feedback?
And following the
Would you like to hear mine?
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it.
Mm-hmm.
You just throw that out the window.
2. Mac
Jones.
Okay.
3. Justin Fields.
But you have to be careful about being too cautious because
4.
now you can't run any offense at all.
Still want to attack.
Zach
We'll see
Wilson.
how they attack him here.
5.
They'll break the huddle, come
Kyle
up on
Trask.
2nd and 8 at the 27-yard
Wow, so
line.
Trey Lance actually even drops out of the top 5 for you.
Yes.
To throw.
Wow. You know, I think Trey Lance might actually, or Kyle Trask, rather. I think Kyle Trask, rather, actually might be the 6th quarterback taken. Like, I think the media focuses on these top 5 guys. I actually think that Kyle Trask is a guy who's getting a little bit of the raw end of the deal here. Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I feel like, I don't know, the guy threw 43 touchdowns in the SEC last year.
Finished 2nd in passing yards.
Now, where did he... So between Devontae Smith, Kyle Trask, Mac Jones, and... Gosh, I'm blanking on the other Heisman finalist right now. Oh, it's Trevor Lawrence. Where did Trask rank on that list in the Heisman voting? Do you know?
So after the run
After
for
the
no gain,
voting?
here's 2nd and
Yeah,
10.
no, like, where did he rank in the Heisman voting? He was 4th out of that group?
I thought so. I thought
Yeah.
it was thing.
Yeah, it's possible. But yeah, Kyle Trask had a heck of a year, and honestly, he was great the year prior. I thought when he filled in for Felipe Franks getting hurt, he actually took over that Florida team and really actually commanded the offense well. So now I'll move on to how I predict they'll be drafted, because it's a little bit different than how I would draft, but this is how I think it's actually going to go. Trevor Lawrence is obviously going to the Jacksonville Jaguars. As soon as the Jacksonville Jaguars cemented the #1 overall pick, that is who they've been taking since that day, guaranteed. And I think everyone in America that knows football would tell you the same thing. I do think that Zach Wilson will go too. It just from reports that everyone in the media seems to be thinking that Zach Wilson is going to be a Jet. Now, I do think that the 49ers will take Mac Jones. I do think they end up taking Mac Jones at 3. Now, I don't know where the next 2 will go, but I think the 4th quarterback off the board will be Justin Fields.
Cousins gives way to Cook.
And then,
He takes it down to the
of course, Trey Lance bringing up the rear at 5. Again, I don't know where they're going exactly, because I do think that maybe a Chicago or a Washington could trade up to get one of those guys if they wanted to. Or New England, yep, absolutely. They're another team that can swoop up there in the first round and go get a guy if they like him. Now, of course, I think the most polarizing of the 3 here, or of the 5, excuse me, is I think a lot of people either love or don't love the fact that Mac Jones is going to get drafted #3 by San Francisco. So here's my rationale on this whole quarterback thing, is I honestly think that Trevor Lawrence and whoever goes to the 49ers regardless is probably going to be successful right away. Okay? Like I said, I think it's going to be Mac Jones. But yeah, I think so too. But what do the 49ers have that the rest of the teams in the top 5 of the draft, what do they have that the rest of those teams do not have? Defense, but more so I would say a win-now situation, right? And I don't think I'd get a whole lot of pushback saying the 49ers have a Super Bowl roster. And absolutely. And he's going to a head coach who I think is just about as good as it gets in the NFL. I mean, I would say that Kyle Shanahan is one of those top few coaches in the NFL. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yes.
And so,
Sean McVay.
Well,
but that's a different subject.
I think you're fair to, and I'll get to that in just a sec. I think it's absolutely fair to put Kyle Shanahan above Sean McVay, but I think, however, there's probably, I think going into this year, I think San Francisco kind of realizes they're in win-now mode, right? And I think Mac Jones probably is the guy right now. I think Justin Fields, who's probably more of a project than Mac Jones, if you're asking me right now, Mac Jones is the most, I'd say he's the most pro-ready quarterback. Day one, other than Trevor Lawrence. But I think Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch kind of want a guy who can step in right away and be successful. And he's coming from, obviously, a former NFL head coach and the best college head coach of all time, Nick Saban. His offensive coordinator, Steve Sark, obviously big NFL guy. Yeah, he's Saban or Sark?
Saban.
Yeah.
His record is not fair.
Well, his record wasn't good, but he got there. But yeah, so obviously, but he's the best head coach of all time in college football. I don't really think you could tell me otherwise, even though I'm not even an Alabama apologist. But he's the best. He's the best ever. And then obviously he worked closely with the offensive coordinator Steve Sarkisian, who was an NFL guy. And then obviously Mac Jones has been working with NFL talent on his own team, even with the offensive line and the receivers and even the competition. Because to think about all the guys the SEC puts in the draft: Auburn, LSU, Georgia, Florida, gosh, even South Carolina lately. They just put Javon Kinlaw in the first round last year. Now J.C. Horn is another.
Difference to you?
Well, it kind of does. I mean, doesn't it hurt a little bit, right?
Exactly why I don't have
Well, there you go. I mean, even Kyle Trask. Kyle Trask played very well against better competition, right? And so, I mean, I myself don't have an issue with you putting Kyle Trask above of Trey Lance, because I think it's actually realistic. But I would put him above Trey Lance, but I just like the ceiling his athleticism gives a little more than Kyle Trask's. You won't put above Trey Lance?
Yes, who I won't.
Who?
Stanford's quarterback.
His name is Davis Mills. That's right.
And I saw a mock draft today that had the Bears taking Davis Mills.
Now the Bears are picking at what, 19? Yeah, somewhere in the low teens. But thing is man, enlighten me.
In the last 2 years, he has 18 touchdowns and 8 interceptions.
Wow, it's not
He
really
threw for 1,500 yards this year.
so essentially.
1,900 last year.
Yeah. Well, you know Stanford, you got Bryce Love, who has been great there. Then obviously Christian McCaffrey, great there for a number of years. And maybe David Shaw's program just doesn't really emphasize the quarterbacks. Obviously Jim Harbaugh really had Andrew Luck until I believe his last season at Stanford, and then David Shaw took over the reins. But
we can go to David Shaw's quarterback.
Following the good run by Cook, here's
KJ Costello.
You also had Hogan. What was his first name?
Kevin Hogan. Yep.
Kevin Hogan. His passing yards and touchdowns are probably way higher than Davis Mills.
Kevin Hogan was a good college quarterback. Yeah, never really amounted to anything in the NFL, or at least not yet. But yeah, you'd think that, yeah, a guy like David Mills is probably looking early to mid-second day, you'd think, right?
Sixth round pick.
Sixth round. Wow. Little Davis Mills hate here.
What did he do that was? What did he do that it was so impressive?
Yeah, not a whole lot, right? Not a whole lot. Not a whole lot.
I mean, just looking at that, look, I mean, he threw the ball for a total of 195 times, and he completed 129 passes.
That's actually
not even like tape on it.
Well, right. That's the thing. One thing that maybe hurts him here is the Pac-12 really didn't even play a whole lot of games this year. So, yeah, I do think that hurts him probably a little bit, and the Pac-12 in general has just been down in the last half decade since Marcus Mariota left from Oregon. That's really been their last great program, I feel like, in the Pac-12. Right. But anyway, let me go back to my point on Mac Jones. But I think from the 49ers standpoint, I think Kyle Shanahan isn't about winning games. I think he wants to win a Super Bowl. And winning now is important to him and John Lynch. Sure, but there's a difference between winning games and winning big games.
So with the missed
But
PAT in his rearview mirror, he goes back out to kick this one off.
I don't think he cares about. I don't even think Matt. I mean, I don't know Matt Jones obviously, but he doesn't seem the guy to care about personal accolades like that. But I mean, I just think
He
that.
says something Waddle and Devontae Smith, who
Here are the Vikings now to start their
played
next
with
drive.
Tua
And 2
and Mac
interceptions
Jones
already here
preferred
in this
Mac Jones.
first half.
That does say something. That does say something. But I mean, like I'm saying, like I think Mac Jones can step in right away and be good for San Francisco, and I attribute that mostly to San Francisco's structure with the coach and the GM and the culture that they've got there. I think they're definitely one of the premier franchises in the league. But Kyle Shanahan wants to win now. Like, yes, we think of him in the upper echelon of coaches, but he's going into his 5th year, and he's got 1 winning season. Can you believe that? He's got 1 winning season. Like, is that kind of hard to believe with a guy like Shanahan? Really?
75 yards. And the Vikings get the quick strike touchdown.
team that was.
As a former DB, you might not like to see that, but from a wide receiver's perspective, those are the plays they dream of.
Correct on both counts. All right, because once he took off,
they got Garoppolo at the end of the 2017 season, and Garoppolo ended up going like 6-2 down the stretch. And then they took that momentum into 18, and then they kind of sat on Garoppolo for a year, and then the 1 year that they had Jimmy Garoppolo for the full year, they go into the freaking Super Bowl. Who I've only got Jimmy Garoppolo as like the 18th best quarterback in the league according to my power index. I just put out a updated quarterback rankings list this week. I've got Garoppolo around 18, and that says something that I think that in the only time that that guy was healthy, your team went to the Super Bowl. And it's like only if you had a guy that just could get through the season.
And this is why aggressive defense coordinators love to blitz. It wreaks havoc because they end up taking their attention to the blitzers, freed up the D lineman to make the play.
Right, absolutely. You need a quarterback. But even Shanahan's saying, like, my God, I beat Sean McVay this year with my freaking backup. You know, like in the 1 year we had my starter, we were leading Patrick Mahomes in the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl. And so I don't think Shanahan wants a guy like Trey Lance who's going to have to work on it. I kind of think that he wants a guy that can step in, like right away. Let's say Jones comes in for Garoppolo in like week 3 after he tears his ACL.
He certainly does, but as you well know, this is a guy that's used to taking a few chances, used to fitting it into tight windows. These are throws that he's made before.
I do too. I think Justin Fields is a stud. What's that? I would generally agree with you. I mean, even against Northwestern and Indiana last year, Justin Fields. Sorry, go ahead.
I mean, his progression is faster. I don't know. Sometimes Justin Fields looks like he's playing a little wild.
Yeah, and that's actually part of my criticism with Zach Wilson too. A lot of BYU football is on TV last year because they were on in the Saturday night late prime time games, and some of those schools that weren't playing in August, I mean, they were on TV. And Zach Wilson, yeah, he jumps off the TV screen, but you'd almost watch him play and you're like, oh my God, don't throw that. But then he fit it in the hole. Like he executed on what was normally like a terrible decision, but he made it work because of his talent. Kind of, right. And I think, like, if he's on a bad team in New York and he's forcing stuff like that in the NFL, I think personally,
York is going to fall into the same trap.
And he gets it all the way down inside the
quarterbacks
10 and mark him at the 5.
Hold that D-line, and then you get that first round quarterback to come in.
right? And honestly, I think the Jets are upgrading their roster from a season ago, but I personally think they should have held on to Sam Darnold. Their coach is a heck of a lot better. Adam Gase should never coach another game in the NFL, just like Matt Patricia. But I'll save that discussion. I feel like he did. Well, at least publicly. And you never know what the guy's thinking privately, but publicly he's saying, I want to be a Jet for life, yada yada. But yeah, I don't think he wanted to actually be there, perhaps.
He was pretty excited when he got traded.
Well, he's probably excited that he's got CMC and DJ Moore to play with. Wouldn't you?
Oh, and he didn't have.
And Robbie Anderson, the burner over the top.
Now at the 3, here's 2nd and goal.
He played really well.
Right. And the other thing I want to get to San Francisco before we move on totally from the quarterbacks discussion, from San Francisco's point of view, if Jimmy G gets hurt mid-season, or even perhaps if he doesn't even get hurt and plays the whole season this year, and Mac Jones is behind him, holding the clipboard and watching, and I mean, the last full season they had with Jimmy G, he went 13-3, and they won the NFC. But I think many people, including myself, think that San Francisco probably wants to move off Jimmy G. If you draft, what's that?
They would have won that Super Bowl with a different quarterback.
Well, I even think Jimmy Garoppolo hits that throw to Emmanuel Sanders half the time. I mean, he was open. He beat the defender, and he just missed him. But if you draft Trey Lance or even Justin Fields, who I think can step in right away, but I think he's more of a development project than Jones, because I really do think that Jones can step in right away. Because I mean, think about it. Like I said, he's playing against the best competition. He's got NFL offensive coordinator Steve Sark, who is basically teaching him how to run an NFL offense.
Mac Jones was the Joe Burrow.
Well, I won't go that far, but I see kind of where you're coming from. I do see that.
Burrow didn't have that great of a season.
The Lions offense ready to kick off their next drive.
Not very long for LSU the season before. He comes in.
Right. Well, you know what was interesting? At the end of last year, when Tua got hurt and Tua was running RPOs all day, just making easy reads to Henry Ruggs or Jerry Jeudy, is when Mac Jones entered the games, they just let him drop back and was like, oh, they trust him to make reads. They're trusting him to actually read a defense.
8 yards the tally on that first down run. Here's 2nd and 2.
I would not be shocked. I'm not selling my, I don't think Tua is going to be a bust, but he admittedly struggled a year ago for sure. But anyway,
the first season he came in and for Tua, they were down.
They did it well there. Perfectly executed crossing route.
Yeah, they were.
But he still fought back.
Right. Well, actually, didn't Tua play in that game? I think Tua got hurt against Mississippi State.
Yeah, but he played in that Auburn game, LSU game, and got hurt when Jones came in.
Oh, you're right, actually. I think he was actually already dealing with an ankle injury, I think.
Yeah, and a lot of people didn't think he could play.
Right.
And he did.
was a 4-yard
and
run,
then
so the
Jones
offense is
came
going to go back to huddle, feel pretty good about themselves. Defensively, you have to feel okay because you didn't let it turn into a bigger run.
But he eventually, got him back in the game.
Right, absolutely, totally agree. But if I can get back to my point about the Niners quick, I mean, honestly, if you draft Mac Jones, that gives the Niners flexibility. They can trade. I mean, if they know they're going to take Mac Jones for sure, they could trade Jimmy Garoppolo tomorrow and get picks. Because there's always teams that need a quarterback. Always.
If they get one season out of Garoppolo and Carson,
trade him while stock is high.
When he's healthy.
Right. And certainly, I don't want to compare Mac Jones to Patrick Mahomes because I don't even think the skill is even in the same stratosphere. But the situation in principle is kind of the same. So, I mean, I think Jimmy Garoppolo would also garner a lot of assets. I mean, good Lord, Sam Darnold got traded 2 weeks ago, and they traded the Carolina traded New York a 6th-rounder this year, a 2nd and a 4th next year. And I don't know about you, but I like Jimmy Garoppolo more than Sam Darnold.
I don't know. I like Darnold.
Here are the Vikings now to start their next
Ability
drive.
to stay healthy.
Well, the best ability is availability.
Have we seen Darnold actually play on a decent team?
Not since USC.
And from the 25, they work this to the
And
29.
then, even at
a gain of
USC, he
4.
had like 17 turnovers.
Well, he's a little turnover prone, but I tell you, the kid's 23 years old. He's turning 24 in a couple months, and he never had a good NFL head coach. I think Matt Rule's going to get things squared away. In Carolina, you surround Darnold with a couple deep threats. Darnold likes to throw the ball deep. I'm okay with picks generally, unless you throw like 30, like Jameis Winston.
He'll take shots at the Saints starting
16 yards, a first down.
Hey, I had Jameis Winston ranked 21 on my list.
Understands that he knows how to use his body to keep defenders away from the ball and puts it right out there for the nice pickup.
Yeah, that's another discussion for another day, perhaps. But yeah, my point is, I think the Niners are going to take Mac Jones, and I would bet you that Mac Jones is probably the Week 1 starter of the 2022 season. That's my bet.
I agree.
It's online. It's in the podcast. People can hold me to the fire if it doesn't happen in a year and a half from now. But that is my prediction, that Mac Jones is the opening week starter for the 2022 San Fran 49ers.
Can I take credit for your mind changing?
No.
Why not?
No.
Why not?
I had an epiphany this weekend.
You had an epiphany after I learned you.
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
Oh, I will share the details.
Now, personally, I don't think Mac Jones, like I said, San Francisco is going all in on this pick. They gave up assets to go up to 3. They obviously, if they did that, clearly like Mac Jones. Right, absolutely. But they've got this small win-now window. And the NFL's about winning big games, playoff games, conference championships, Super Bowl, etc. And I think that's largely why some people view Stafford's tenure in Detroit as a failure. I'm not saying I view Stafford's tenure in Detroit as a failure, but there are those people out there who see it like that. But if we valued guys who are just good in the regular season, then we'd praise guys like Mitchell Trubisky or Jared Goff even, who is good in the regular season. And both of those guys' teams moved off those guys this year. And Jared Goff went to the Super Bowl before Jimmy G did.
And has won playoff games.
Right. And both of those guys have a higher career winning percentage than guys like Deshaun Watson, but we would never say that Trubisky or Jared Goff is a better quarterback than Watson. And then even Tua won a higher percentage of his games this year. And Tua went 6-3 as a starter this year. And Justin Herbert went 6-9.
How many of those games did Fitzmagic have to come in?
Well, at least a couple, right? Well, then does it go down as a quarter? I think it still goes down as a guy who started the game. Goes with the win. But anyone with working eyeballs could see that Justin Herbert right now, last year, was worlds beyond anything that Tua was doing. So
I thought he was better than Tua when they drafted.
Well, I don't know if you remember this, but actually at the beginning or around this time 2 years ago, before we knew Kyler Murray was going to come from baseball and go to football, people were saying if Justin Herbert comes out as a junior, that he's going to be the #1 overall pick. Do you remember those days? A lot of people, but then eventually Nick Bosa declared early, and then Kyler Murray declared.
Last year people thought Kyle Trask was going to come out.
Right, and his draft stock probably would have been higher.
15 pick.
Right.
I don't understand how his draft stock can be higher last year than it is this year. He had a
Well,
better season.
I think it comes back to quarterback saturation almost.
He would have been probably top 5. I mean, he may still be this year, but he probably would have went right after her.
Right. Absolutely. So, but anyway, my point is that the Niners want to win big time. I don't know if I see Mac Jones leading them to a Super Bowl in his rookie contract while they're not paying him, but I think the Niners think that they can surround him with enough talent, and his physical attributes are probably good enough at least that they think that they're confident enough that they can get them to a Lombardi trophy. And that is my closing statement on the rookie quarterbacks.
Someone's been up to the task so far in this game. They're already up a couple scores, and guess what? I think they're just going to pin their ears back now.
Well, I woke up a little bit. I'm starting to sip. I'm not really sipping the Mac Jones Kool-Aid, but I'm just telling it how I think the Niners see it. That's all I'm doing. Any closing remarks around the quarterbacks before we move on to the next subject?
This is the NFL, and it's on EA Sports. And we welcome you back now alongside Charles Davis. I'm Brandon Gordon, getting set for quarterback.
All right. I'll allow it. So now, again, with the draft coming, like I said, a week from time, the guys who aren't quarterbacks, who are your guys to watch in the drafts who aren't playing behind center? Anything you want. I don't think offensive line play is boring, but I think a lot of people would disagree, but I think it's exciting. But anyway, go ahead with your players to watch.
The best wide receiver in this class is Kyle Pitts.
Now, technically, by technicality, he's a tight end, but he's the best wide receiver in the draft.
Yes.
Generally, I'd agree with you. He is built like DK Metcalf, absolutely. Calvin Johnson had similar measurables, actually.
It comes to mind.
Right.
They have to start getting the ball in the hands of their playmakers. Throw it to the guys that maybe can take a short pass and turn it into a long game, or make people miss downfield. They've got to have points. And the guys who can put the ball in the end zone, they're the ones that need to touch the ball.
Right. Right. Well, you take Kyle Pitts over both of them.
On second down,
I would, but
I would think.
If this was the Lions picking 7, fan base got a little tight end.
Well, T.J. Hawkinson to me was a true tight end. I feel like I don't care what you label Kyle. He has. He was a Pro Bowler last year, and even I didn't think he would do that in his second year. Oh my gosh. So anyway, however, you know, you can put Kyle Pitts as a tight end, but anybody that picks him is getting an offensive weapon, right? I mean, you can line him up outside, you can line him up in the slot, you can put him at tight end. I feel like the one weak spot in his game, and again, the SEC was playing football from the start, and so there's a lot of SEC football on in the early fall when we're all, you know, waiting for football to start up after a summer of basically nothing, unless you're a big baseball fan, which I am, but don't get the Tigers around here, but that's another discussion. But Florida was on TV a lot, and Kyle Pitts could not help but jump off the TV set, honestly. I mean, you watched him play, and you could tell, like, that guy's as talented as it gets as from a tight end.
I'm telling you, I would take him at 7.
I don't think he's going to be there.
I don't think he'll make it to 7.
Second down at 5.
I kind of think.
Because I could see Atlanta picking him, but I mean.
Well, I can see Atlanta picking him too, but I mean,
smart pick.
They run it again with Cook. Cook a first down and more. 20.
Look now, if the 49ers
give him 42
take
yards on the ground
and not Mac Jones,
don't say it. Don't say it.
I could see Atlanta taking him.
I can't go that far. I can't do it.
I could see Atlanta taking Justin Fields.
They don't need a quarterback.
Why not? He's 37 years old.
I think he's only 35. I believe Matt Ryan's 35, I think. And, I mean, the guy is not the problem. Their defense is horrible. Their defense is awful.
But I mean, the Lions he has taken
well,
Matt Ryan is
I don't know if we're taking offense. So that's our next segment, is talking about the Lions draft. So we'll save our thoughts on the Lions going forward, but
I guess I don't know. We'll do Penei Sewell too.
I think he'd be a great fit in Cincinnati.
They need O-line in Atlanta, though, too.
My personal, I think Kyle Pitts goes to Atlanta at 4. Or they trade the pick. That's my personal thought, because they need defense. Well, Atlanta is really the interesting one at 4, because you know the first 2 teams are taking who everyone's projecting them to take. You know that right now, a week and 1 day out. Now, you know pretty much, or Justin Fields. And my personal belief that I really don't see, the draft starts at 4 to me. I don't see Atlanta taking a quarterback. They either need to trade the pick down and get a defensive player, and maybe trade again with a Chicago or a New England or a Washington, and one of those teams can get the number 4 pick. My issue from the other side of that is that if I am one of those teams, are you really, unless you love either Justin Fields or Mac Jones and he falls to 4, are you really trading up all that way to get the 4th best quarterback of the draft class? I don't know.
Zach Wilson.
He's my bust. He's my bust of the draft.
So, I mean, if you're trading up the 4, Atlanta, Chicago, and you can give up some, I don't know, DB, or a free safety or something.
Yeah, everyone's got assets, you know.
And a third or something.
Every trade works for the right price.
Or if Atlanta's, defensive player,
God.
and then they trade back in the draft and they still get, a decent offensive player or defensive player.
Gosh, don't you think Chicago would be dangerous with a guy like Justin Fields? Maybe not right away, because I kind of think that Fields is a little bit of a project. Not a crazy project, but don't think he's a day one starter kind of guy. But I think Justin Fields could just be scary. Especially with Allen Robinson and Cole Kmet and David Montgomery in that defense.
Okay, let's just say Atlanta takes that.
Okay. And then I think they take Penei Sewell.
They probably should take Penei Sewell.
Got to protect the franchise. Absolutely. He got hit more times a game than any other quarterback in the league, and I think that's including Deshaun Watson. So you got to protect the franchise.
I know that Burrow would rather have
interceptions on back-to-back drives.
Well, you'd think, but they even got decent weapons now, though. T. Higgins, who I think is going to have a breakout year this year. Tyler Boyd is a good supporting, wide WR2. Then obviously you've got a guy like Joe Mixon who can be a factor in the passing game out of the backfield, and then they've got a couple good young tight ends. The issue in Cincinnati is protecting Joe. And I think that's going to be where their problem lies. So then you got Miami at 6. Now their roster, I would also argue, at least defensively, they're kind of in a situation almost, I feel like Chicago, where their defense is among the league's best. I actually think Miami's defense is better than Chicago's, if you ask me. Then at 6, I think you got to go get. I don't think it's actually out of this world that Miami trades down and compiles more assets.
That's what I mean. Why not? But I have a feeling they're going to take it.
Well, I don't actually hate that pick from that point of view, though, because then you're kind of with Tua, because then you've got, if you think about it, you've got Myles Gaskin, you've got Devontae Parker, then you have Jamar Chase, who actually should step in and be the #1 receiver there probably right away. And then you've got guys like Mike Gesicki, and so then you're.
I guess they have to feel a little gratified to at least get on the board last time, but still.
Parker's been okay, but I mean, you saw what Justin Jefferson did last year, and that was with a guy like Adam Thielen across from him. I think if Jamar Chase in 2019 was named the best receiver in college football, winning the Bittner Award, with a guy like Justin Jefferson on the team, I think absolutely Jamar Chase can step in and be the #1 guy.
Well, yeah, I mean, so what I wouldn't be surprised also that could be happening here, and this is maybe surprising to you, but I could see them taking Jalen Warren.
Well, either way, weapon. I don't think that's surprising at all. They need a weapon, right?
He didn't even try to signal for a timeout, so they must have not been aware.
Right. They need playmaking ability, because that offense was not that far away from somewhat of a snooze fest last year with Tua in the game.
So the delay of game penalty.
So
it's now second.
Definitely.
Tua's also played with Waddle. and Devontae Smith. So
right.
Take one of those.
Right, absolutely. And so then that leaves the Lions at 7. And then we kind of have some questions. And so let's transition into this. Let's talk about the Lions draft as a whole, okay? So we're at 7. I know what I'm doing. What are you doing at 7 if you are our new general manager, Brad Holmes? What are you doing if you're Mr. Holmes on draft night next week?
I am taking, let's see, if Waddle goes off the board at 6 to Miami, I'm taking Jamar Chase.
Really? So,
yeah,
I would be taking Micah Parsons. That's what I would do. And here's why.
My ideal situation is to trade that pick to the Broncos or more.
Okay. Okay. So here's the question for you then. What is the point of Denver trading up to number 7 from number 9 if you know Detroit's not going to take a quarterback? And, I mean, I would be very, very surprised if Carolina took a quarterback at 8.
Well,
so what's the point of What's the point of jumping?
So essentially, they get the penalty
yardage back,
and it's back to 2nd and 10.
Carolina going to trade their pick?
2nd and 10 at the 44-yard line.
Okay, I see where you're going here.
At pick 8. They could get Slater later in the draft. If they trade back to 9, they can get Slater at 9. If they trade back to 10, they can get Slater at 10. If the Patriots trade up. So they have to make an offer before one of
give to Cook out of the gun.
Yeah, I definitely hear you guys. I definitely hear you.
That still leaves them with a difficult third.
What I could see happening is the Eagles trading with the Lions.
Moving back. I've heard rumors that they might try and get back in the top 10.
They want back in the top 10 for one of those wide receivers.
Yeah, because I think it's a... Well, look at all the injury history they've had. They can't keep Alshon Jeffrey healthy. They can't keep Deshaun Jackson healthy. Jalen Reagor, the guy they spent a first-round draft pick on a wide receiver last year, got hurt. I mean, they're striking out in the draft. They've drafted horribly, seemingly, in the last few years.
So if the Eagles don't trade with the Lions, if they can't trade this, why would they trade back with the Dolphins? I mean, they traded that.
Right, so that doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Now, they trade with the Lions, they can get Devontae Smith or Jamar Chase.
I guess they figure they got to start taking some chances. Here's a
they
big
have
one in
picks.
this third quarter.
The Lions could gain some picks. That'd be fantastic. You can gain you get this first-round pick this year, and you can get a first-round pick next year, along with like a third.
Right. So for me, my rationale. So my rationale is that if you take Micah Parsons at 7, that gives you a guy that can help your defense a little bit. Obviously, Detroit had the worst defense in the league by some metrics last year. They gave up the most points per game in the entire NFL. And for a guy who's watched every single snap of Lions football in the last 17 seasons, I can say that defense was probably as bad as I've ever seen a Lions defense play.
It was worse than the 0-16.
Oh my God. Yeah, that team just struggled on offense a little bit. But actually, that 0-16 team, if you go look back at the scores, they played some close games. Like the NFL's an 8-8 league, and everyone's professional and everyone's good. But I felt like that. I don't know. Of course, I know this would never actually work. But like, I felt like Alabama could put up like 30 points on Detroit's defense last year. It was that bad.
Oh, it was terrible.
And it's sad that, you know, we brought in a guy who's supposed to be a defensive-minded guy.
Different time.
I know. It's a discussion for a different day, but it's just abysmal to watch last year. And I think if Micah Parsons can help stop the run, because I actually think our defensive line is not awful. Romeo Okwara actually was the one guy on the defense last year I thought that was worth keeping around, and he actually had a heck of a year. And if we can stop the run, which I think Micah Parsons would help with because he's extremely fast for his position. I mean, he's extremely fast in general. Gosh, throw him in any position. But that speed, I mean, that helps anybody in the NFL. Now, if you get that side-to-side speed, you're gonna help that run defense. And then if you can stop the run, that can help you not get burnt by play-action pass so badly. The Lions looked like they had never seen a play-action pass before last year. And their secondary has some talented pieces in it. Tracy Walker, I think, is developing. As bad as Okuda was last year, I'm going to blame that on. I'm going to chalk that up to a pandemic offseason with no OTAs in training camp and basically being thrown right in the fire. Right. And so I think that he will actually bounce back and be better this year. But he had a rough rookie season.
Alright, so here's
that was a beautifully executed screen pass.
I don't know
what
happened.
The blocking forms in front, lofted it to the runner, and now not only does he have open space in front of him, he's got an escort as well, and they pick up big yardage.
Trading their later round?
Trade their later round pickup.
Or their later in the first round pick?
Yes.
Yeah, because they actually, it's something that we've neglected to talk about, but they've got other picks going in this draft. Where's their other pick, Sean, in the first round? 25th? Okay. It's an asset.
25 is their pick. They move back in the top 10. Maybe they want Micah Parsons.
Yeah?
You know? Maybe they want Surtain.
Well, at the end of the day, I don't think the Lions want the 25th pick.
But if we pick up the 25th pick and the second pick, the first pick in the second round,
well,
for our top 10 pick,
I wouldn't do it, but you go right ahead. You go right ahead.
Where you can still take it 25?
Who can you still take at 25?
You can take the linebacker from Notre Dame, Jeremiah.
Oh, yeah.
Or you can get Zaven Collins.
Well,
who I think may be better than
I think Micah Parsons might be the best defensive player in the draft.
He's got...
But it's not a big pass rusher draft, and pass rushers normally go in the top.
And the Vikings are able to make this a close game again.
Yeah, from Bama.
From Bama, our D-line
I think our defensive line's fine, but I really think you got to address the linebackers. I think the linebacking core of the Detroit Lions is as bad as it's ever been. And
I mean,
now Bailey to tack on the extra point.
Take one of those linebackers from Notre Dame or Tulsa at 25. Then you get the first pick in the second round, and you can take a wide receiver there. Or you can take a D lineman there.
Well, it's definitely a deep running back, it's a deep wide receiver draft.
It is, because then you have 2 second round picks.
Right.
You still end up with your first.
And this is back to a 5-point game.
Makes the score
yeah. So the way,
Vikings 27.
yeah, absolutely. The way I would do it is, I think I would take Parsons at 7, and then I would look to get Jared Goff a weapon. I think.
Second round.
Right. Yep. So, I think you got to get Jared Goff, the best available wide receiver, and whether you think that's Kadarius Toney from Florida, or if that's Rondale Moore from Purdue, who I think is not quite like a Tyreek Hill. I don't ever want to I think Jalen Waddle can bear a comparison to Tyreek Hill. Rondale Moore is a baller though. And if he's available, perhaps not, but I wouldn't even be sad with a Rashad Bateman, who actually was incredible. Not even last year, but the year before, he was great. And then you could even look at a guy like Terrence Marshall from LSU, the second LSU wide receiver. Yeah, absolutely. So I think if the Lions can't actually surround Jared Goff with any talent, and DeAndre Swift had a nice rookie year, but the bottom line is, if you can't stretch the field and move the ball, it just doesn't make the trade look good. And then you watch Stafford flourish in L.A. Sorry, go ahead again.
I said I think that our O-line is decent enough to give Goff enough time to play with these fast receivers.
It's got pieces, and yes, we did pick up some speed in free agency, that's for sure.
That's why I don't see Waddle fitting with us, where a lot of people have us take. I take Devontae Smith. Make sure you keep your eyes moving, scan the field. Mainly because I don't want to take someone who has
out of this first down run, and that'll bring up second and 7.
Because how many times have we drafted a running back or wide receiver in the first or second round? Supposed to be a great guy, but he's coming off an injury, and then all he's had is injury the entire time.
Right.
3 yards on that last carry. Here's second and 7.
I mean, we did that with Kerryon Johnson.
A shotgun snap for Stafford. He's got the first down inside the 10.
And he was injured. And he still has been.
Touchdown pass of the game for Matthew Stafford. And the Lions.
Well, that's why we drafted DeAndre Swift.
He was surprisingly dropping in the draft. K-Woody Payne.
I don't know. I think he's actually I don't think he's
a lot of
a
people
top
had
10.
him as like a top 15 pick. And now some people have him going in the second round.
I think he could actually go. I think he could still go in the top 15, arguably. I think actually, like the Vikings could actually use a Kwity Paye and get after the pass rusher a little bit. Or
So I mean,
I think the Vikings at 14. What's that, Sean?
We'll finish this pick with the Lions real quick and then move on to
the next topics. So yeah, so you've got them taking Jamar Chase.
If we don't, that is if the Dolphins take one. If Jamar Chase isn't there, then we take Devontae Smith. And my personal favorite is the trade back.
Okay, then I'll go with Parsons, and then I'll go best wide receiver available in the second round. Excuse me. And then after that, and it's kind of once you get to the third round, so the Panthers. So if I'm the Panthers,
Rashawn Slater.
I would actually agree with you. I would take Rashawn Slater, solidify the O-line. You've actually got great skill pieces in Carolina. Like I said earlier, got DJ Moore. You've got DJ Moore. You've got Robbie Anderson, Christian McCaffrey. And that's a good starting point. I wish they wouldn't have traded away Curtis Samuel, or else I really think Sam Darnold would have a lot of assets to play with. And I think that would be really beneficial for him, especially under a head coach that I think knows what he's doing. I don't think I'm totally sold on the Matt Rule show, but I definitely think he's a step up from what he had.
It is what it is. Now, here's my next pick. You go to the Denver Broncos.
So for me here, and I know I'm different on this than you, but I'm taking whoever I would like more between Justin Fields and Trey Lance. I think in Denver. And personally, I think if Justin Fields is still available, I think you gotta take him at number 9. I think you gotta take him.
And you want to know what? Because he's not a project quarterback. They did their project quarterback with Drew Lock.
Drew Lock. And don't get me wrong, Drew Lock's talented, right? Drew Lock is a talented passer. He's got a good arm.
So is Case Keenum, and look where he's made himself.
Well, I think
backup in his career, and a couple good seasons.
I think Drew Lock's issue is maturity, frankly. I think you see him celebrating on the side, and don't get me wrong, you can't celebrate, but you can celebrate.
Really?
But he seems to just be. Well, Patrick Mahomes can back it up, but I mean, if you've got Derek Carr, Justin Herbert, and obviously Patrick Mahomes in your division, and Drew Lock, I think actually either had the worst passer rating or the worst completion percentage among qualified starters from a season ago. He's clearly not the guy. He's clearly not the guy in Denver, especially with all the offensive talent. I mean, you've got Melvin Gordon, who I believe is actually underrated. And then you move on, and you got Jerry Jeudy, you got Cortland Sutton coming back from injury, and then you got Noah Fant as your tight end. Like, come on, give me a break. That's a decent
a lot to work with.
I believe so, and so I think at 9, Justin Fields still available. You gotta take him. All right, so let's go to 10, and I believe at 10 we're looking at. Who are we looking at 10, Sean? Got it in front of you?
Should be is it the Dallas?
Is it Dallas? Yeah, I think it is Dallas. Go ahead.
They've taken Patrick Surtain. Actually, they'll probably take Micah Parsons if he's there. Because, I mean, you just said it. He's the best defensive player in the draft. So, at this point, no defensive players have been taken in my draft.
And Dallas's defense is literally, they were as bad as it got.
Almost as bad as Detroit. So, right. I mean, yeah, take Micah Parsons.
So you're taking Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons is already off my board at Dallas.
Yep.
I think if I was going with anybody here, I actually think I like J.C. Horn out of South Carolina just a little more than Patrick Surtain. I'm not mistaken, I don't have the measurables up, but I think J.C. Horn is a little bit bigger. I think he's a little heavier, a little bit more physical. And I think he's got the ability to press receivers on the line of scrimmage. So I'm taking J.C. Horn.
205 pounds. Patrick Surtain is 6'2", 203 pounds.
Okay, so generally they're about the same size. Not a big difference. So I think I'm taking J.C. Horn, who seems to be flying up everyone's draft boards. Now, at 11, you've got the Giants. I'm taking... Can we go to, like, 16? Can we go to the first half of the first round with Arizona's pick? So let's go to 16. So, at 11, I've got Devontae Smith going to New York, because I think this is a make-it-or-break-it year for the man behind center, Daniel Jones. I think he's going to get Saquon back this year, which is going to benefit him. He's already got Kenny Golladay coming in, Sterling Shepard, Darius Slayton, Evan Engram, who's also needs to stay a little healthier. But my goodness, the Giants all of a sudden, and Joe Judge turned around that defense last year. They don't need help on defense. That defense was stingy toward the end of last year. Definitely got to get a playmaker. Got to get a playmaker for Daniel Jones. And if Daniel Jones has all this talent around him, then maybe you're in the quarterback sweepstakes again after 2021 if Daniel Jones doesn't prove it this year.
All right, well, I've got Jalen Waddle then.
Okay. And is Devontae Smith already off your board, or no?
Yeah, I had the Lions taking him with the Lions and trade back.
Okay, and then you got Jamar Chase in Miami.
Yes.
Okay, very good. All right. Moving on to Philly. Again, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but I will take. I'm actually going to put Jalen Waddle in Philly.
Yes, now I've got all the wide receivers off the board.
He's got the good wide receivers off the board.
Got all the top 10 ones.
Right.
And
it's intercepted.
I
mean,
so what do I do in Miami?
And he will take this
not
one
Miami.
home. It's a touchdown.
Was Miami's pick.
This game, it's been defensively oriented on both sides, so I guess it stands to reason that the play of the game comes on defense.
So it's my kind of game. You know that.
That's
Anytime we have a defensive battle, but that, as you said, it stands to reason that's the way the game tilted. Someone had to make a big play,
the Eagles
and the way the
take
defenses were dominating, that's exactly what we got.
Did I have Dallas take him? No, I had Micah Parsons go with Dallas. That's
So now here are the Vikings faced with a big 2-point conversion.
Okay, then we got the Chargers.
How about Slay there?
Cook, they'll try and run it. They're gonna
all right, 13 at the Chargers.
into the end zone to bump the lead up 2 more.
I think I agree with you on that pick. I think that is where I'd go. I would actually no. I'm actually going to take Elijah Vera Tucker out of USC. I think anything that you can do to protect Herbert. Obviously, that offense has a lot of talent on it. Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler, Mike Williams. I mean, if Justin Herbert doesn't get hurt this year, and obviously, I think Elijah Vera Tucker or Tristan Darisaw would actually be really. Is it it's Christian Darisaw, right?
Yes.
So either one of those picks, I'll take Tucker myself, but you can't go really wrong with either, I think. And I think as long as Herbert is upright and standing, the Chargers are at least. I think the Chargers at least probably got to win 9 games next year, right?
I think the Chargers finished second.
I would agree. I would agree.
I wouldn't be surprised if they gave the Chiefs a run.
A nice little screen. They get 6 on first down.
For a second there, I thought
they beat the Chiefs.
Screen pass.
They beat the Chiefs in Week 17 when they were resting their starters, though. So I don't know how much stock I take into that game. Well, that was Justin Herbert's first start, right?
Exactly.
Week 2.
So, I mean,
Operating from the gun. Stafford. And my goodness, another interception.
Yeah, absolutely. So okay, so then we round things out with New England.
It's a touchdown.
Well, we'll go to Arizona, but New England at 15.
the Vikings pick at 14.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Vikings at 14. I got Quiddy Pay.
All right. Well, I have
J.C. Horn. Okay.
I don't know. We played them twice last year, and we burned their DBs.
Well, all their good DBs left.
Exactly.
Their best corner was like a third-string corner on most teams.
Exactly. So I'm gonna give them a DB there.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that's actually fair. All right, 15, we go to New England. I actually think New England really needs a wide receiver. They need help. That wide receiver, especially now that Edelman's retired. I don't know how much Edelman. Well, they signed. Shoot, gosh, I know they signed a couple guys, but I don't think any of those guys were world beaters. But I think you got to get a receiver. So I actually think that they could go Terrence Marshall here at 15. That might be a little bit of a reach, but they need something desperately on the edge. So desperately. So I'm going Terrence Marshall.
I'm going to give him
the Detroit offense ready to begin their drive. We'll see if they can band back together after the pick six. It hurt badly.
I like that. I like that. Okay.
With a good chunk of time on the clock.
And then finally at 16, you've got Arizona.
They'll be taken down, but not before they work it across midfield. The catch and run pays off for 29 yards. And with that last play,
their roster is actually, like, I also think this year Arizona, although that NFC West is just insane. The NFC West is insane. They could even finish last. I don't really know. I wouldn't be surprised if any of those teams finished last. I'd be a little surprised if Seattle ever finished last in that division just because of the consistency Russell Wilson gives them. But I like Arizona's upside, you know. I like Arizona's upside with Kyler Murray. Again, I feel like they could go receiver just to surround Kyler Murray. But I would actually go... I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's horrible. I think Kyler Murray actually is a little bit responsible for Kyler Murray getting hit, if that makes sense. Like right now, he holds the ball a little too long. Is running around a lot. I don't think their offensive line's bad, but I don't think it's great. I would actually go and get a corner. Who's the best remaining corner in the draft? No, I put Horn. Yes, I do. Yeah, I'd give Patrick Surtain to Arizona. That's where I think he falls.
I'll give
Oh, that would have been the next corner. Yep. All right, very good, and that will wrap up the cornerback decision. Or excuse me, that will wrap up the first round of the mock draft, the cornerback position. They haven't just drafted like 8 in a row at the end there. All right. So we talked about the draft. So talked about the Lions draft. And then suppose we'll move on to our best bets of the evening with the odds and lines provided by DraftKings. It's a little late now, but I did make these picks before we started the show and before these games in the NBA tipped off. So I will give you my Sean, do you have your bets ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So, and Sean and I don't know each other's bets. Sean and I don't have a clue of what we're going to say here, but I'll go with my first bet of the evening here. And I'm going to say Denver and Portland are going to go over 230 total points. I'm going to take the over on that, on the total score in that game, over 230 points. All lines and bets courtesy of DraftKings, by the way. All right, Sean, give me your bet. How many you got? 2? One? Okay. So give me your bet of the evening.
I've got the under on the Miami game.
Who's Miami taking on tonight, Sean?
Spurs.
Okay, so Miami and San Antonio, you've got the under. What's the total points?
Let me see here. I can't remember.
Dan Bailey to kick.
All right. Well, while you're figuring that out. Okay. So, and then my last bet of the evening was going to be the LA Clippers on the money line over Memphis tonight. So I'm taking the Clippers.
Give me the upset.
So, are you talking the Clippers are the upset?
Nah, give me the...
Give you the Grizz? I was going to say, well, actually, the money line was on Memphis. Like, it was minus... I think the wager for betting the money line on the Clips tonight was like plus 137. And so I don't know really where that came from. But, yeah, I would have taken those odds. I'll take the Clips to beat the Grizz. All right. And...
The over-under, by the way, on that game was 216.
Okay. Miami and San Antonio.
Yes. So
okay. Very good. All right. And tonight we're going to wrap up here with a little bit of sports trivia. So Sean and I, at the end of our podcasts, are going to ask each other a couple sports trivia questions here that you guys can play along with, the listeners at home. The question will be asked. We'll give you guys about 10 seconds. We'll give you 15 seconds to guess the correct answer, give you some time to think about it, and that will be the conclusion of our show after that. So Sean and I have a couple questions for you guys to play at home with, and that is how we will wrap things up here this evening. So, Sean, are you ready?
Sure.
All right, queuing up the timer to 15 seconds, and that clock will start after I ask the question in its entirety. So I'm going to give you kind of a softie to warm you up. So I know we talked a lot about the draft tonight. So I'm going to give you a draft question. So in the 2007 draft, surefire Hall of Famers Calvin Johnson and Adrian Peterson were selected within the first 5 picks of the draft. Who was the quarterback selected in the top 5 of the same 2007 NFL draft that is infamously known for being a bust in the NFL? And if you know it right away, that's good, but we're still going to give the viewers at home the 15 seconds to think it over, okay? So clock starts now. And cue the Jeopardy music. All right. Got a good guess, Sean?
I want to say it's Russell.
Complete answer, please, Sean. First and last name. His last name is Russell. There you go. Ding, ding, ding. Jamarcus Russell is the correct answer.
One of the fattest quarterbacks of all time.
All right,
now
we're just getting offensive.
Purple juice.
Hey, Jared Lorenzen, man. R.I.P. All right. Now, Sean, give me your question.
Brings up 3rd and 7.
How many questions you got for me? 2?
Just 1.
Okay, got 1. All right. So go ahead. Give it to me when you're ready.
Touchdown passes John Elway threw in his last Super Bowl season?
So we're just talking regular season.
Just regular season.
Of the last season that he won the Super Bowl. Okay. Now the 15 seconds is starting. I don't quite know the answer, but given as good of a quarterback as he was, and you have to take into account the time period. So his last Super Bowl run was 98. I'm going to guess that John Elway threw 29 touchdown passes in the 98 season.
Let's see. He threw 22.
22, darn it. All right, and my last trivia question for the viewers at home and for Sean is, I always claim that my NFL life started in 2004. It's the first season I remember watching. Of course, I was born in 98, but I didn't watch John Elway win that Super Bowl. I didn't start really watching the NFL until about 2004. So, the year before that, though, in 2003... that was the last year that two players took home the MVP and shared it, were co-MVPs. Peyton Manning was one of the MVP recipients that year. Who was the other MVP of the 2003 NFL season? No looking up on your phone. 15 seconds. Da, 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 da. Da 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 da. All right, and the 15 seconds are up. Sean, I need an answer.
Now a first down throw. Stafford.
Is it a running back?
See, that wasn't an answer.
I need a hint.
All right, I'll give you an extra 15 seconds. It was a quarterback, but no more hints after that. No more hints after that, but I'm going to give you another 15 seconds.
Was it Favre?
That is incorrect. The correct answer is Steve McNair. The late Steve McNair. Again, R.I.P. All right, well, that concludes the first episode of the Sean and Bittner podcast. For those of you that stuck around live, just want to thank you guys again for spending a little bit of your day with us. We really appreciate it. And for those of you that are going to watch, maybe when we post it to the Twitter page or catch it a little bit later, we hope you enjoyed it, and we hope to see you around for the next episode. So until next time, I'm Michael Bittner. And that's how we end our broadcast. Thank you guys again, and have a good night.